Abusia Miracles Aboagye, a new patriotic party communications director, and they on lawyer Paul Adumoche Achansi Edin Komono Bebre, Nansemo dia Tuja, and Yansem Kitwa, Inani said demonstration under attack, and no demonstration, of course, we were the Hunkomo Bebre, Afin Sukrano, 2 cities. Kyerɛ aban nso oyi de afiri petrol ne diesel prices so a ɛnhyɛ da ɛmfa impact papa bi ama inflation a ɛnɛ yi yɛde dada Ghanafoɔ nso so no wokɔ edwama so a prices of goods and services kyerɛ sɛ ɛho nsɛm no ayɛ kana no ne nyinaa no wɔadi ho nkɔmmɔ bebree a ɛnyɛ asɛm ketewa yɛngye berɛ na yɛnkɔtie ne nkɔmmɔ twitwe no bi na yɛn nso yɛnkyerɛ yɛ adwene.
I raise concerns about why I believe the executive is behaving the way they are behaving. And one of the things I said was, if the executive are too comfortable with the judiciary, they would oppress the people. Because the judiciary is like the gatekeeper between our liberties, our freedom of speech, and tyranny and dictatorship. And immediately the executive feel that they could get the judiciary to do everything or anything they want, they would oppress the people. You see, power is a very strange thing. Once you have it and you fall in that bubble and you don't get to wake up quickly, you will do anything and everything. I mean, later on, you may regret. We've seen a lot of dictators regret later on in life. We've seen a lot of military people regret later on in life. But when you are in that bubble, you need something to remind you that there is a limit to everything you do. And the judiciary has a responsibility to do that. And I have felt that in the past month, our judiciary has been in a very romantic relationship with the executive. And that romance, for me, is a worry. That I, for one, am very loud. I talk a lot. I like to speak because I feel speech is not a weapon. It doesn't kill. In other countries, they are pulling guns, they are throwing ammunitions all over the place, and if all I can do is to speak, then I'll speak up. But recently I fear. I fear because I feel that if I don't take care, my mouth will put me into trouble. That I believe we have an executive that wants to hear only what is palatable to their ears, and that they test citizens who challenge the status quo, criticizing them in a way that they don't want, and that even if you criticize them, do it in a way they prefer. I fear. And I fear because if I come into a confrontation with the executive today, my resort will be the judiciary. But I'm worried that if I look at how the proximity between the executive today and the judiciary, maybe they have their ears, I don't. And that worries me. And that is why I believe you saw tens of thousands of people on the street today beginning to realize that it is not about some class of people in our society. This thing started from 7 January 2025.
7 January?
Yes. When this element of this government started invading people's homes, ransacking people's homes, invading people's businesses and offices, drawing people from their cars on the streets, and there were applause. They got carried away. They could come on air and, proudly talk about how they've gone to somebody's house and pulled their CCTV cameras and even release videos of how they've invaded people's homes and people's privacies. It was like a fashion on the street in this country, early 2025. At that time when some of us raised the concerns, I believe some people who came to the street today felt that, this is the political class having their own little game. But I always said that politicians, the way we are, if we start something and you encourage us and you don't put brakes in our way, we'll abuse it. And today, it has moved from the political class. It has moved from the MPP being attacked by the NDC to ordinary citizens. And that is why you see a woman who is on an open source platform like TikTok doing her own thing, being dragged from Bompata, Yeji, to Accra to be tried for insult.
But they think they are members of the MPP.
The point is that the assumption we have in this country is anybody that speaks against MPP is NDC. And anybody that speaks against NDC is MPP. You understand? I'm very integral in the comms architecture of our party. And I can tell you, most of the people that have been dragged to the court, some of them jailed for a year and co, are not people that we would say we can relate to. Of course, like we know immediately.
They are not your communicators.
No, but of course, immediately they say something against somebody in the executive, and you pick them up. Then obviously you are picking up an anti-voice. And we are the opposition leaders in the country as a party. So obviously there are people that we need to, help and protect, because anybody speaking against the government, one way or the other, is pushing the ideals and views of the opposition group. Yeah. But they don't necessarily fall within the bracket of the MPP. So that's the first error that they make. And there are people who are being jailed for a year. People are being given 3 weeks remand, 2 weeks remand for insult, like insult. And Paul, I keep saying that politicians and footballers are the people who should never be sensitive to insults. Listen, there are footballers like Stephen Appiah and Co. We still call them Stephen Appiah. Stephen Appiah and Co. They are uncles and fathers. But because they are footballers, you still call them Stephen Appiah, Lai Kingston. Politicians, Nana Akufo-Addo, John Mahama, Kofo. You can't be sensitive to these things. Because you are,
I never thought about that.
Yeah, because you are in that space. You can't be.
So we don't say President Kofo.
No, but you see, in conversations, you'd easily get President Kofo. When you were making your presentation, on 3 or 4 occasions, you just say Kofo, Akufo-Addo, John Mahama. Like, you can't be sensitive. You can be called uncle at home, you can be called daddy Mahama at home, daddy Kofo at home. But to us,
we don't care.
We don't care. We are that politician, you are that footballer.
You are property.
But immediately politicians become sensitive to things like insults. Then there's a problem. And today it's rampant. And you know why it's become rampant? Because when these elements in this government started invading people's homes, destroying people's properties in their homes and all of that, they got a certain energy. A party that goes out to promise the people that vote for me when I come, I will jail people in opposition. It's a dangerous party. Because you see, we have rules and laws in a country. You can do whatever you want to do. But if the promise is not to say I will use the law, but I will jail people, that's dangerous.
Yeah.
And that seems to have festered into the minds of the executive and has been leading them on for almost 2 years. And guess what happened? They began to major in the minors and minoring in the major things, forgetting that ultimately time will catch up with you. And the people will be asking you for the core things that, mean the most to them. And that's why you're seeing people on the streets. The teachers who came on the street today, they are tired of everyday reporting of how you've harassed people. They are tired of every day they hear in the news, all the things they hear you've achieved in the news is how many people you've harassed. That is good. Keep on doing it because the laws are there. They don't go away. These are permanent features of our democracy. So keep doing it. But whilst you are doing it, can you show us your scorecard for employment? Can you show us your scorecard for businesses? Can you show us your scorecard for health, education? The specific...
they have a good scorecard for the stabilization of the city
and
the general economic stability.
Fantastic. Early days, I was one of the few people that came here and give credit to them for how the dollar was doing, how the inflation. I've always said it, but there's a problem. The problem is that macroeconomic indicators, sexy macroeconomic indicators in itself are not the end.
But
they are just the means.
But they are the beginning.
No, it's just a means. So we've talked enough about the means. We've spoken about it for close to a year and a half.
As being the only standout.
People are beginning to say that, okay, can we not see the results? When are we saying it? Because think about it, Paul. If you're a citizen of a country, one leader was posting 23% inflation, 14 cedis to the dollar, and was giving you fuel price at 14.99. Let me repeat, 23% inflation, 14 cedis to dollar. Was selling inflation to you, was selling fuel to you as 14.99. Another government tells you, vote against them, let them go. I will fix it. I will make your life better. I'll give you better conditions of living. Then he comes to office. Fantastic. First 12 months, inflation dropped from 12 to 5. Right? Then dollar moves from...
Inflation from 23 to 5.
23 to 5. 23 to 5. Dollar from 14 to...
10.
10. At some point, they said it was even coming to 8. Okay? But let's use prevailing condition. Inflation is below 5% now. Dollar is around 12.5. And yet, I am buying my fuel at 15 cedis, higher than when it was 23% inflation and 14 cedis, which one would you go for? Would you prefer a sexy macroeconomic indicator that gives you a higher fuel, or macroeconomic indicators that gives you lower fuel? Remember, in a developing economy like ours, fuel is a big determinant in everything. Industries, transport cost. Once transport cost goes up, it affects everything. As we speak, when inflation was 23% and dollar and fuel was 14.99 in this country, people traveling from Circle to Kumasi were paying 90 cedis for their bus. Today, when inflation is 5%, when fuel dollar is 12.5, people are paying 120 cedis from Circle to Kumasi. If you're a citizen, which government would you prefer? So macroeconomic indicator in itself is just a means. If it doesn't reflect in the microeconomy, it's a waste of everybody's time. And that is why the cocoa farmer today will come on the streets. That what is going on? When you told us the economy was bad, the government was paying us for our cocoa beans. Today, we have been owed for close to 16 months for the first time in the history of this country. And that government is paying us in tots. Today, we have cocoa beans and we can't even sell. That is a worry. If you go and promise a young student who attended senior high school for free because his parents are poor, that you know what? I know you are poor. That's why you attended the free senior high school, which is good, because immediately it was introduced, a lot of people were able to access secondary education. However, have you asked yourself, after secondary education, how are you going to move on to the next level? I think that if you are poor for secondary education and you needed help, then you will need help for university education. So, vote against the guy that gave you free secondary education and vote for me, because I am going to open access to tertiary education for you by ensuring that when you finish secondary education, you pay nothing. You pick your bag and go to the university, because I will pay to the universities as grants your fees, and that I will make sure you don't go through stress in accessing university education.
For your first year.
The guy looks at the student looks at the man that gave them free and says, oh, you know, you have been very kind to me. Look at you. But for you, I couldn't access secondary education. But Charlie, you have no other plans for me post secondary education. This guy, yes, he didn't give me secondary education free, but he says he will make university free. So they all went to queue and voted for you because you promised them stress-free level 100 fees. No single Ghanaian student since this government came to office, 2 batches, has received stress-free level 100 fees. They will come on the streets. Why? Because they feel betrayed.
I heard you on this matter when you were speaking on Joy, and just it's a clarification. So, but it's interesting what you say. So you say the promise was that not a sort of I'll pay you back in the promise?
The promise was clear, and the video is there. In fact, if you ask Apreku them, they can pick it from UPSA. He says that.
Is it not? I'll give you the money back?
You can play the video.
What did he say?
He says that he doesn't understand why these students who are poor go through free senior high school. Then when they finish, they need to find money before they can access tertiary education. The object was that if you don't take care, because they don't have the money, when they get the admission, they can't go to school. So I am removing that barrier. When you get admission to tertiary, just enter. We'll pay your fees. In fact, the word you use is we'll pay to the universities as grants. So that you just take your bag and go to school without stress. Now, this is what is transparent. When you now finish secondary education and you get university admission, government is not there for you. You don't have money. You can't go to the school. If you don't get the money, you can't go to school. What it means is that promise that when you get admission and you don't have money, you can go to school has not been fulfilled. What rather happens is that when you get the admission, you must go and hustle, stress, look for a possible loan, and then go and pay your university fees. Then, if you are lucky and you get the money and you enter university, then you can apply and be reimbursed. Now, the problem here is that the people for which this stress-free loan was introduced, the poor people, they are the ones who don't get the money to go. So they remain home. That is why, if you check, in the last 2 academic years, even though there is level 100 no stress-free fees, you still have a lot of people on Facebook saying, if I don't get money, I can't go to tech. And you see people raising funds for them. So these were your target group. They remain at home. There are still students who are home that couldn't access tertiary university.
If it's a government situation, can't you walk into a bank, a private bank, and collect the money because government is going to pay?
Can you show us one bank in Ghana that has a product that says that you can use the government's promise that if you get university, they will give you and give you a loan? Just mention one.
Maybe they haven't thought about it, but
No,
yeah,
but just mention one.
There's none. I don't
Exactly.
know. Exactly.
So if I come from, so there was this guy that Nana Dankwa Akufo-Addo gave scholarship.
But is it not a step
Hold
forward?
on, gave scholarship to go to the UK to go and study. We found him. He had admission to University of Ghana to study economics. He had finished free SHS. Amweni. But he was home. You know why? Because he had admission, but he didn't have money. He was farming, hoping to raise money, and then in the future he would go to school. So for somebody like Amweni, who went to queue for you and voted for you because of no stress-free fees at level 100, he still remains at home. Where is that promise? That is the
Amweni has
problem.
been moved one step forward that the bill that is looking at you, there's somebody who will pay.
Yes.
So go as far as you can to get. That's one step forward.
But
It's
you
still
see-
stressful.
So
though.
you see, so again, so that is where the issue is. So the promise is different from what you are delivering.
Well,
You see, people's expectations in marketing, expectation and satisfaction are friends. People's satisfaction level is based on what they are expecting. In fact, the promise you give them is what triggers their expectation. Their satisfaction will be based on the promise you give them and the expectation they set for themselves. If you give me a promise and I set my expectation and you don't do it, I will not be satisfied. So the fact is that no level 100, no stress-free fees for level 100 has not been done. Rather, what the government has introduced is post-stress fee support. That after you have been able to go through stress and you are lucky enough to go to the university, then government will support you. Such students joined the demonstration today. But for me, what is most crucial to me is the fact that today, tens of thousands of Ghanaians said that we beg you. You can take everything away from us. You can do whatever you want to do to us, but don't take our voices away. And I'm very disappointed that there are a lot of NDC people, our friends, who are not talking.
talking about
But these are people that we sat in studios with and we took, swipes at each other when they were in opposition. I don't think you yourself will admit that there has been any political party as critical as of a government like the NDC between 2021 and 2024.
yeah, that was
Trust
feisty.
me,
That was
they were
very
brutal.
feisty, yeah.
The NDC 2021-2024, they were brutal.
They said some people were arrested.
This party was on air, actually calling out chief justices, calling them names. In fact, until the NDC between 2021 and 2024, I never knew that you can actually go on air and call the chief justice of the Republic women organizer of the party, of MPP. But they did. In fact, the NDC is the one that made me realize that, hey, you can actually go on TV and promise your party people who are lawyers that when you come, you take them to the bench. In fact, the NDC are the ones who made me realize that, hey, you can even tell the judges that they are partisan and that the bench is imbalanced and that you balance the bench. The NDC made me realize that you can actually tell a chief justice that I can't work with you. Then when I come, I'll fix it. And then indeed, you come and you do it. I never knew. They threatened army generals live on TV. They threatened police commissioners, police chiefs live on TV. Come on. Which politician in Ghana has been vilified than Nana Dankwa Akufo-Addo? They made AI and edited videos of Akufo-Addo in some very unwholesome positions. They called him Sewa Broni's baby, whatever. They called him names. Akufo-Addo was called a thief, a criminal, a mafia. And all of that in this country. A whole tribe was given a tag, a Chim Mafia, in this country. We were in this country when some people went to fake a document and called it a Japadie book. We were in this country. Imagine anybody writes a Japadie book in this country. That person will be in jail today. That's a Japadie book that NDC were actually brandishing. Even the flag bearer of the NDC spoke to that document. Imagine anybody in this country, ever, you pick it and even read it on air today in Ghana, you'll be in jail. They will arrest you and tell you to come and show where you got the book from. Who was arrested for a Japadie book? That document that everybody knew was a fake document. Who was arrested? That document was a defaming document, you are aware. That document was a blackmailing document, you are aware. That document was a misinformation document. You are aware who was arrested in this country. But today, do you really think that Ejapadia document, that even had the Ochehini's picture on the cover, will be entertained in this country? So that is where my disappointment is, that, guys, especially our friends in the NDC, when we say the beauty of democracy, it is about the give and take. If you take the give and take away, Paul, there's no beauty in democracy. Immediately you take the give and take away, there's no beauty. I understand. When you are in political leadership, like you're an executive, it's always uncomfortable. It's always unpalatable. When we're in power, anytime I see NDC friends like Sami Jemfi, Erika J, Abbas Nuruddin coming to speak, then my heart. Because whether you like it or not, they are in opposition. All they are going to do is to tell you about the things you haven't done. It's part of the executive. We took it in our strides. And then you are in power. All of a sudden, you don't want us to talk. When you talk, you are targeted. And you see, there's something about government. When government targets you, there's little you can do. You can be cooking your own pepper soup, and the government will say that the pepper in the pepper soup is not enough, and so you are arrested. Today, you heard a woman by the roadside. Muncheno abayin, achechi abayin. That is what the women by the roadside were calling the government. Muncheno abayin. It's like anything at all can get you arrested in this country for anything at any point in time. And that is what, for me, brought me onto the street today, that, listen, let's do whatever we have to do, but let's not take free speech away from the people. That's the only thing we have. That's the only thing that keeps us going. I don't think there's any country like Ghana. When we wake up in the morning, you have like 300 radio and TV stations, everybody discussing politics and everybody expressing their views. I don't know if you've seen any country like that.
No, it's very difficult to find.
Yes, and this is beautiful. That is the beauty of democracy thing that we are talking about. In other countries, they are pulling guns. In other countries, they are using cutlasses. We are just using words. Take it. After all, it's not as if the people in government also don't throw shades at us. You throw it, we throw it. That is the beauty. For those on TikTok, Facebook, that you have issues with, the solution is not weaponizing a certain law and throwing them in jail and intimidating them. Use the state institutions, activate state institutions like NCCE to educate and sensitize these people to understand the limits and boundaries within which they can operate with free speech. Because as we speak, somebody in Pandai somewhere is on TikTok doing TikTok live, uncoordinated. For such a person, Paul, for such a person, why are you arresting her? Instead of educating her, instead of sensitizing her, how many people can you arrest? Because TikTok is still growing.
But there's another point to everything that you've said. And the point is that all of these, those of us going on this demonstration are doing so because we have stolen money and we are afraid that Yoko is coming and we are hiding behind free speech, and there's no free speech has not been curtailed anywhere. You see some of these expressions from civil society and social media. No speech, you are afraid, you don't want to answer questions and all of that. How do you receive that, given all what you've been through in the last 1 week?
How does demonstration stop any state institution from doing their work?
Yeah, they think that but that's for the
so
point.
The point. So the demonstration had nothing. I'm not sure you saw anything about the demonstration that has anything to do with accountability. Mm-hmm. Nothing, none. Mm-hmm. The demonstration was quite specific, emphatic. Suppressing and oppression of free speech, selective justice, persecution of dissenting views. These have definitions in political science. They have specific definitions. They are not the same as what you are talking about. They have specific definitions. I'm a political science student.
Yeah, but they are saying that.
So they are not the same as what you're talking about.
It's being used by MPP leaders as a facade because they know that in the next few weeks they're going to catch on.
So you are government. In the midst of that noise, separate them. Mm-hmm. Deal with all you have to deal with, but give an ear to the people. That is all. Mm-hmm. Like you see, when you are government, you must be able to multitask, do everything some. But if you are focusing on just one, you will lose the other very critical element. Today, electricity has been increased by over 24% in 18 months. Water has been increased by about 15% in 18 months. Industry fuel to power industries have been increased by about 20% in 18 months. As we speak, employment has moved from 25% thereabout to 30%. All the promises you made to the people, you haven't been able to fulfill any. And you are inching towards half of your tenure. So you can't focus on just one aspect and ignore the other aspect, which even impacts on the lives of the people the more. So pursue accountability all you want. It's very important. It's good. Pursue it. But why are you sacrificing every other thing for that? Because that in itself is not an outcome. It's not an end. It's a means. So you can't sacrifice the cost of living of the people for that gives you pleasure alone. Do all. That's what we are saying. Have a cocktail of everything. Let everybody feel it. Because you made the promises to the people. When you made the promises to the people, you didn't stick to just one promise. You made several promises. Today, as we speak, Paul, can you tell me one major life-changing policy this government has introduced to this country?
They have something going on in the Mahama case.
What's Mahama case?
They're buying equipment and upgrading many of these hospitals.
But hospitals, equipment, upgrading, is there any government that hasn't done that?
No, every government does.
Exactly. You see, life-changing monumental things that make you distinct, unique, things that leave legacy for you. Where are they? You said you promised these people that, okay, we import so much in poultry. Vote for us. When we come, we introduce Igugu Kentekete. And what Igugu Kentekete is going to do is that we're going to decentralize poultry so that we can produce more in Ghana to complement or supplement the imports and increase local production. You've sunk over 300 million Ghana cedis, and we can't find them. You've sunk 300 million of Ghanaian money. We can't find them. When somebody raises this, don't get angry at the person and say that because you've said that I'm going to target you. Like I said, let me repeat. If government targets you, even your pepper soup can become a crime. So it's easy for government to do whatever they want to do and go after anybody. But how many people can you go after? Because eventually it will catch up with you. Mm-hmm. When the people begin to get tired, like you're beginning to see, compared to today's demonstration, to the last 2 demonstrations that have gone on since this government came, you see the difference. Even the police, today, even the police that were even helping protect the demonstrators, you could see that the demeanor have changed. The demeanor has changed. The police themselves.
They were very friendly
than it was in the past. Yeah. Why do you think it's happening that way? They are all beginning to get tired. It's tiring. When all you have from a government is when they are excited, they are persecuting, going after the opponents. The president is aware that his own party people are involved in Galamsey. Mention one of his own party people that they've picked up for any Galamsey related thing. But they are gleefully, happily going after opponents. I'm not saying the opponents who are doing Galamsey should be left scot-free. But the citizens are watching and they see the selective justice. They can identify it. They can see how you've left all your party people to destroy our water bodies all over the place. The Upper Dencher East chairman of the NDC was seen on video almost strangling a military man at a Galamsey site, asking them to leave. He's walking free. So the people can read meaning, so it gets tiring, so they begin to get tired. And that's why now you hear the women in the markets calling the government, achicha government. Because they are beginning to realize that you are using that to deflect from the real issues. You are using that to cover up the substantive matters. That is a worry. For now, it works. Momentarily, it feels good. But it will get to a point where people will get tired and they'll begin to ask you the real questions. We beg government, Paul. Mm-hmm. Let us speak. Allow the people to talk. Excesses should be dealt with in 2 ways. Threats are criminal. Deal with it. But insults, let's use sensitization to be able to get people to move towards the center.
Especially those who are non-political.
Exactly. You see, right now, almost everybody is even becoming like a political and like reporters because of the infiltration of social media. Mm-hmm. All you need is to have a how do you call that thing? The standing thing, the pod. Tripod. And put your phone on, and you have a network. And you have a show. Mm-hmm. You see what I mean? They don't need any license from you. They don't need any certification. They cannot be regulated by you. But what you need to do is not to go about arresting them and giving them... Look at what is happening with bail conditions. A lawyer was telling me yesterday that he has a client that has been in detention for 9 months. And guess what? He is on bail. But his condition says that he should bring 4 civil servants who earn not less than 30,000 cedis a month. How many civil servants in Ghana earn up to 30,000 a month? And the guy needs 4. Because of that, he's been in detention for 9 months. Why do you treat your citizens like that?
9 months?
Yes. Yes. In the past few months, haven't you seen people spend 3 months in detention because they couldn't raise bail their bail bonds and sureties? Why? Like, are you able to sleep? How are you able to breathe? Knowing that, indeed, somebody qualifies for bail. But the only reason why you have kept him in detention is because you have deliberately given him an onerous condition that he cannot. Like, why? Paul. Nana Akufo-Addo was in power barely 18 months ago. He's gone. Oh. He's gone. And guess what? He came just about 2017, just yesterday. He's gone. He's done 8 years. All of us will leave. So why are you doing that? And when you continuously do these things, what you are doing is that you are entrenching it. And you are imbibing it into our society. And eventually it becomes a convention. You know, precedences are law. Mm-hmm. Then by the time you realize, it's become a cycle. And we all suffer. Why? Why?
That's what Afenyo Makin says. I do you, I do me must stop.
We need to. It's important. It's extremely important. It's extremely important because it's going to consume all of us one of these days. If you are in DC, you should be worried about what is going on. Not just because MPPO, but you don't know when even your own political party. You know, sometimes you can be.
Yeah, they can use it against
even in opposition, as we are. There are people in opposition, and there are people in opposition in power. NDC. There are people who are in NDC and they are not part of. So somebody may even come as a leader of your party, NDC, and they will use it against you because you may find yourself on the other side of, within the party. So we need to speak up against it. And trust me, there are people in NDC who are not happy with this. They tell
I've
us.
heard that.
Yeah, they tell us. There are people in NDC who don't like what is going on at all. The only thing is that they are also not speaking up, which I don't blame them. And that is why those who want to at least appeal to the government are doing it. Today's demonstration was an appeal to the government that we beg you, stop suppressing views and oppressing the freedom of speech of the people, Paul.
Mm-hmm. Michael, so what will be your last word here?
Well, I basically would, first of all, say a very big thank you to our party people and the tens of thousands of non-partisan Ghanaians who joined this demonstration. They're on the right course. They've done good for Ghana, and we should keep it up. We should keep it up. And also encourage my party people, the MPP, that we have a responsibility to be a proper opposition party today to in this country. And so we cannot go to sleep, no matter what. You see, as an opposition party, we have our tools to use. But remember, the government in power also have their tools to use. And so when they deploy their tools against us, let not that discourage us. Ours is to stand up to it and most importantly, also deploy our own tools. And that is why, for me, I have willingly put myself up to be the National Communications Director for the MPP. Mm-hmm. I believe that I have a responsibility to step up and step forward and serve the party in a capacity that I think I can deploy my skills, my skill set for the party. Everything I am now is as a result of the MPP. Years of development by the party, years of mentorship I have received from very senior people. And I keep saying, Honorable Damwetwe, you can't get it wrong with him. And if he has mentored me over these years and brought me to this level, and I see the situation we find ourselves now, I can't sit down and say, oh, well, I have my own plans, let me do my own thing. No, I have a responsibility to step up. And that is why I am putting myself up as the one of the aspirants for the National Communications Director role. I think that my job is simple. Get a message to the Ghanaian voter. That's my responsibility. That's my job. And I think I have the skill set to do it. We are going to command the narratives. And as a politician party, our job is to define the conversations on a daily basis. And we are going to do that on 3 pillars: facts, fire, strategy. Mm-hmm. We're going to ensure that we push the conversations purely based on facts. Mm-hmm. I am a believer in facts, that when you drive the facts with strategy and with passion, it would stick and sink into the minds of the Ghanaian voter. And that's what we are going to use to be able to drive to drive the conversation. And that is not going to stop. I believe that with this mandate, the years of experience, years of exposure, I'd be able to lead one of the most sophisticated communications architecture we've seen in this country, without doubt. Paul, I've seen MPP lose elections. I've seen MPP win elections. It puts me in a very, very poor position to know what to do to get us victory in 2020. At least I will do my part by driving a communications architecture to back Dr. Mahama Bawumia's campaign. I'm going to do that with the millions of Ghanaians who have committed to the MPP and get things going. I'll build this from the bottom. Currently we have close to 50,000 communications officers across the country. It's my responsibility to mobilize this human resource to drive Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia's message to every corner in this country. And I tell my party people, trust me, I have learned over the period. I have taken my time to understand the system over the period, and I'll help all of us deliver 2028.
I believe that. That was very solid. Okay. That's Dennis Miracles Aboagye. Voting is on 3rd October.
3rd October,
yeah. In Kumasi at the National Congress.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.